Last year I changed my insurance. The fire value. You didn't even take more video. Yeah, did you keep your? No, no. I need to get running. I'll be back fast. Like, how you doing? Yeah, how are you? How's it? Okay, hi. Can you guys hear me okay? I didn't put in the chat if you can hear me okay. This is Sherman. About to get started out. I thought I'd give you a sense of the group because I know a lot of you wanted to attend. How's the audio? So feel free to just write in the chat if it's too scratchy, if it's clear. I'm using a little microphone. I can hear you well. Great. Okay, perfect. All right. So we're gonna get this started, guys. Here shortly, I'll give you a sense of the turnout for Pete. This is pretty powerful. So kind of flip it around. So kind of give you a little bit of the lay of the agenda, if you will. We're gonna start with the opening prayer, and then we're gonna have like 8 people or 10 people speak at different kind of what my brothers described as eras of Pete. So kind of the younger years, the college years, the canyoneering, the surfing, the San Diego, the different parts that he lived. So hopefully you guys can enjoy and really appreciate you taking the time out of your lives to be able to do this and celebrate Pete's life. And if you want to, feel free to put anything in the chat. We'll be monitoring it. But once we kind of get going, I'm going to set it up on a tripod, and then we'll just kind of get going. So I won't be really monitoring the chat. But really, again, appreciate you all coming in, and I'll let you have a look at the group because you don't need to see my face. Sounds like that was our that's like 4 years. Yeah, I know. Mason, have you seen my tripod? Yeah. Have you seen my tripod? Hey, I'm gonna need you. I never saw it. Starting. I need you to start to get everyone's attention. I will. I did try to find my tripod. Have you seen it? My tripod. Is that your son? Yeah, the one right there in the middle. Yeah, bro. He looks just like you. I'm sorry about that. Sorry. He love it. He says that he looks like me. Sorry, dude. Yeah. Sorry. Oh, not that one. It looks like that though. I am going to use that one, so thanks for pulling it out. Hey, Mace. Mace, you gonna set this one up? I just put it right behind you, hang it up, and have it face support. Just you can figure it out. All right. You could announce it. Okay.
I think first is gonna.
I need to find this tripod. Okay, I want to hold this for the Zoom. Oh.
I'm Melinda's mom.
Oh, hi. Nice to meet you.
You're sure?
I'm Sam, yeah.
It's nice to meet you.
Same.
Or he's the kid. Okay.
I just want to say.
Spent a lot of time, like, bringing his van and staying in front of our house, all of that.
Yeah, I love that. That's the van life.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you coming.
I just want. I've been at your parents, so I don't even know what they look like.
Oh, there's mom.
Are you? Yeah. Nice to meet you. Michael.
Hey.
I'm so sorry.
Have you ever seen a tripod? Have you by chance? No, you missing one? Yeah, for the Zoom. I'm gonna move this thing out of the way. Guess like
Oh no.
there. You're fine. You're fine. Get on my. That's good. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah.
Did you get it?
Sure.
Are you ready to go? Yeah.
Yeah. Just get one of the cousins and I'm still right here. Hold it. Okay. Get like Gavin. Yeah. Gavin. Did you get somebody to get a video up there? Hey, can you hold this? Please sit down. And you can take the first. It's a Zoom, Duke. So don't get people sick. So hold it, and you can, or if you want to go, pin your hands on your shirt or something, and then you can always go that way, right? So. Okay. Here, hold it. Yeah, well, whatever. So.
I'm good because that's a long time. Okay. So even if you want to just sit down and film it, you doesn't have to stand all the time.
Yeah, you can sit down if you want to. I'll try that one. I'll try to. So whoever's speaking out of my thoughts, they can hear them.
I mean, let me buy drink. Let me buy drink.
I am right now.
Yeah, but
Right here. We're zooming. Hi, Peru. That's right here. Is that okay?
I have some really good pictures, in Sydney. It's sad, I know. I have to say,
Yeah. Yeah, start recording now. Hey guys, let me move to the Wi-Fi here. Let's see if I get a better connection. So if it drops, just jump back on, but I'll try to do that. Hold on 1 second. Yes, good to just hold it.
Are you done? Or just hold it for me, okay? I'll come get it in a second. Go sit down, please. It's the only mistake.
All right, everybody. How's this video now? Is the video a little bit clearer? No, not yet. Still choppy? Still choppy.
Sherm, you still have a message within Zoom
Bandwidth
that
is
says
low.
Sherman network bandwidth is low.
Guys. Jimmy's over there. Where's Toddy? I don't know where she is. Yeah.
Audio's good, video's off.
See my microphone by chance? I see you're coming in.
On my,
You guys, yeah. It was fun. Yeah, you want to talk? Ready. But you can just have it.
try not to move. Get your hand off. The camera's right there. Try not to move a lot. Chair? You just stand for, oh, yes.
Are you zooming this? Is that what?
Yeah,
So where, yeah, do you have a tripod? Yeah.
I do, yeah. No, not, no, that's a 360. Sit down real quick.
We're gonna go ahead and get started. Yeah, here, bunches. So first, this is good. This is just your size. My name is Marie Stallings. To the younger brothers, sometimes older brothers. We appreciate everyone being here. There's plenty of space. Just come on in.
Bruce up in the mezzanine. The mezzanine.
Yeah, buy out fire so. We do as a family, we feel everyone's out for love and we're so very proud that tell a very far and those here local that enjoy us. We're gonna do a short memorial service, but as many of you have been in plan of the week, we're gonna start with a prayer. That's okay, and it's gonna be offered by our little brother Sherman.
Where's Josh? Where's Connie? Oh, there she is.
Heavenly Father, we're thankful that we can come together as friends and family and celebrate the life of PR, someone who impacted us for some people a short season and other people a lifetime. And we pray that as we celebrate his life and we recount stories, that our hearts will be healed and our memories will be etched in our mind of the wonderful things that were taught to us by Pete. help us, Heavenly Father, to be able to live better lives ourselves. And that is, we all travel eventually to our own place, and we might be able to have the Spirit continue with us. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
I hate that.
All right, so we thought, as you guys can see, there's a lot of different types of groups that Pete hung with. And we're gonna, this evening, we're gonna take us through kind of an air, like a theater to an era. But he would love that, really, nobody, I mean, there's decent choices. We're gonna start off with some of Pete's friends and then end with a couple of family members, but we're gonna be starting with Raul, who knew Pete and served with him, would be served a mission in Ireland. He'll be followed by Brad, which represents his college days. And Glenn will then talk to us about Pete. We all know Glenn as Pete's boss, but did Pete really have a boss? Just kind of this friend they serve with, they just happen to pay him money. And then we'll hear from Tony, and then Kenny, Ash, Cindy, and Dan. And we're gonna go to that point. So we asked them to be brief. We don't know a lot, so we appreciate if you need to stand up, do whatever you do. There's food, drinks over there. But we love having you guys all here. So with that, Rose, you want to start us off?
Oh, give that mic. Where's Raul? Please. My way.
Okay. You have to bear with me, like, it's through this, emotions was running high, obviously, so,
Okay.
I'll take down a little timeline, it was 1996. Put in motion what that means to people. Bill Clinton was in his first term as president. Kobe Bryant had stepped on the court for the very first time. And in a little sponge of an island in the North Atlantic, on a little coastal town called Coleraine, a scrawny Asian kid walked out of a Ford Fiesta. A lot of you that have known Pete, you know, more recently, I say scrawny, and you're going, scrawny? I mean, I got pictures to prove it. So he was scrawny. That's was my new senior companion. What I didn't know at that point was that senior companion was going to teach me more about companionship and friendship than I could possibly imagine. What I really didn't know, and I didn't realize that until this week, is that man was going to give me a master class in what companionship and what friendship is over almost a 30-year period. I tried to find a story to share about Pete that I could share with everyone. Some of them were fairly sacred, and there were millions. And it really proved to be an impossible task for me. I couldn't really find something that I could share. But I felt really strongly that instead of sharing a story of Pete, that I should share a quality within Pete that my middle child called his superpower. I've lost count on how many times Pete called me and would say, "Hey, you know, I got this friend. He's really struggling right now. I think we need to get him into a canyon. We gotta, you know, change his perspective, get his mind off stuff, and do this kind of thing." And it's like, yeah, okay. He's like, "I need you to help me run these people through this canyon." Great. And it really kind of showed that he was just always, you know, putting others ahead of him.
that he saw this true value of what companionship was, what friendship was. It manifested itself well in my life just weeks ago. And throughout our friendship, he was uncanny at his ability to be like, he'd text me. Nobody told him what was going on, but he'd be like, in Pete's way, you know, hey, bro, thinking about you. He'd call me and be like, hey, I was just thinking about you, need to talk. Well, he called me a few weeks ago. I'll never forget his words. He hadn't said this to me before, but he got on the phone with me. He said, Raul, I'm worried about you. And I was in a tight spot. And he knew. Nobody told him, but he knew. All of a sudden, I'm getting, not only did he try to help me out, he rallied the troops. All of a sudden, I'm getting phone calls from Simi. Simi's like, hey, I'm gonna talk to this guy, I'm gonna talk to this guy, we're gonna help you out. We'll do everything that was there. And again, that was Pete's superpower. His ability to not only know that you were in trouble, but his ability to lift you through that trouble. Then I got a phone call Saturday morning. Roller coaster of emotions. I'm not sure exactly when it happened. I'm not sure the timeline of it, but the grief, the sorrow, it's starting to fade. Not in a good way. It was being replaced by anger. It was a cancerous hate that was growing inside me. At work, my staff even told me, they were like, man, like, we were scared to talk to you. I'd withdrawn from my family. I was sitting on the porch. Pete and I had been talking a lot the week before he went to California. And I was thumbing through messages that we were sending back and forth. And if anybody's text Pete, you know this happens, I missed a message because Pete doesn't wait for you to respond. You know, you text and it's like, okay, I send text, and then it goes, and that's like 3 or 5, you know, like, okay, I'm gonna answer these. But I missed a message from Pete. And in a way that only Pete could do, which is like, this is legendary status. He reached out to me again. And when I was in this dark spot, it was Pete who reached out to me again and lifted me through that dark spot. I don't know if it's ever happened on planet Earth that someone has been able to reach beyond from the other side and help you cope with their own passing. But Pete can. So we love you, Pete. You obviously missed. What I'm looking forward to at this point, Pete's message was really clear. Here I was in a really dark spot, really kind of angry that, you know, this companion, this friendship was taken from me. But Pete's message was pretty clear. And it really was, why are you angry that we had this friendship? I was blessed beyond measure to know Pete. I was blessed beyond measure of the blessings that he brought into my life. He brought into my family's life. What he brought to my kids, what he will continue to bring to my life and my children. And I started getting messages from people within our mission. And I actually started kind of feeling a little bit bad for them. Because a lot of the messages I was getting were things like, hey man, like I didn't really know Pete that well. I'm so sorry for your loss. I wish I would have known Pete better. And so what I'm grateful for, and the message that I want to share with Pete is that we still have the sting of death, and it still hurts. How blessed are we that we got to spend whatever time we got to spend with Pete? We love you. We miss you. Thank you, Pete. And to companionship.
Who's next?
All right. Rawls right. He was skinny one time. He loved food so much that it just kind of caught up. I've known Pete for 27 years, 28 years. So we met in college, and my buddy Chris actually introduced me to Pete. And at first I wasn't sure about Pete. I wasn't sure if I liked him. He came off as like way too positive and too nice, and and the girls loved him. And I'm like, I'm not quite sure about this guy. And he truly cared about people. And then later on, as I hung out with him, I'm like, no, this guy's real. This is really weird. He wanted the best out of people, and I felt that. I wanted to be around that. When I first tell you a couple of experiences. One of my first experiences with Pete, we were headed down to the Escalante area, and a couple of my buddies were already there, set up camp, and we were trying to find him. And we were in my car, and another buddy in the back, and he was in the passenger seat, and he was looking at the map. I was like, Pete, I think we're lost. Like, I don't think we know where we're at. It was dark. And no, we're good. And do you know how to read that map? I said, yeah, I know how to read the topographical map. And I was like, did you just say topographical map? I was like, oh no, we're in trouble. But we found our way. He knew how to read it, he didn't know how to say it. But we found our way there, and I'll always remember that because Pete always knew the way, and he was confident, he was sure of himself, he was calm and collective about everything that he did right. And another experience that I had is we were getting on another trip, and in Run Canyon, and I was working late. I was doing landscaping. I hurt my knee. I bumped my knee. I was like, I'm not going. He's like, where are you going? And it's like, I really can't. I can't walk. He's like, we'll split your stuff up. Chris will carry some. I'll carry some. I was like, okay. So I'm sitting there stuffing my bag, and put my water bladder in the bag, and I'm sitting there stuffing stuff in my water bladder that loads all over the place. So I pick my bag up and just dump the water out, and like just storm out of the house. I'm like, I'm done. I'm not going. Pete tracked me down, and Chris tracked me down. They brought me back, like, now you can go. And I needed friends like that to actually force me, help me to get past those mind blocks. Well, we talked about a story about a friend that was in need. And it's been a long time since Running Canyon, and the story that we're all talking about was me. And Pete reached out to me. We've been in contact this last year, and it's been around here through just different things, different trials that I've had. And Pete knew, Pete was great to talk to. He was helping me through a lot of different struggles. And he's like, July 13th, we get the designs. We're going to run this canyon, and we're going to stay at my bike's out, and we're going to come. So, Mark, make sure you're there. And so I said, okay, I'll make sure I'm there. And in my mind, I thought, this is what I need. this is gonna change my life. And it wasn't just the canyon. It was the fact that I had one time with Pete, we're driving in the car and he was coaching me a lot of things in life. The one thing about this trip was we did a low refrigerator and there was a ledge, it's like 2 foot by 6 foot ledge. And there's 4 guys on this ledge. And we're 200 feet off the ground. And most people would probably be freaking out, and I haven't done this for 20 something years. And I thought, I just looked at Pete and I'm like, no, I 100% trust this guy with my life. And I did. And the one thing about Pete is he truly had Christ-like attributes. He was humble, kind, compassionate. He cared about everybody. I never heard him say any bad things about people. If he was talking bad about somebody, he would always spin it to some positive thing, like, oh, if I'm doing this, you're going to do this. And Rob's right. He knew how to reach out, he knew how to communicate and connect with people. And if he didn't know how to fix something, he would bring somebody else into it to help that person, to help them correct what's going on in their life. So there's some of the memories that I have. I love him, I miss him. Tell you this one last story. I am once I heard the news Saturday, I was at my daughter's game, and I had to leave, and I just started crying. Pretty much cried. I mean, tears left because I cried for like 4 straight days. But the thing that was amazing is my daughter and I were at church, and she didn't feel like going to the next class, and so we were like, let's go walk around the church building and see how you feel. By the time we got around the church building, we're both crying. I'm like, okay, well, we're both not gonna go to class now. And I'm like, let's go home and make cookies. We went home and we started making cookies, and I had to actually just go into bed and I just started sobbing. And in Pete's fashion, as I was sitting there and thinking, Pete, how did you leave? How did you leave us during this time? And just crying is like this spiritual smack across the face of like, you done, eh? Like, no, I'm still, I'm still here. And it was like the coolest experience. Very good spiritual confirmation here. So I said to all of you, Pete touched each one of you in one way or another. Make sure you understand when you can feel his spirit and take with you what he taught you. And spread Pete everywhere. Like you guys can touch everybody with what Pete taught you. It doesn't die here. Now we can actually take it and spread it out and keep this going. So please live like Pete lived. And blend with what Pete usually ends his sentences with and stuff. Trump again, graphical. And should have emailed Steve up.
The funny thing is both Pete and I were dyslexic, 2 dyslexic guys working with you for over 20 years. And I could read Pete's emails and find his mistakes, but I couldn't see mine. And he could read my emails and see my mistakes. So we had a interesting special bond there. And everybody else in the company saw all of our mistakes. So, yeah, I'm like Pete's boss. I hate that term when I'm talking about Pete, because I don't think I was really his boss. We were just partners. And I know a lot of people talk about canyons and things, and I did that stuff, Pete. We went rock climbing together. We surfed a ton together. We probably surfed 1,000 times together over a number of years, if not more. And those were all great things, but my relationship with Pete was, hey, I heard him out of school from BYU. And I remember he was an intern, and I said, hey, you play soccer? And he was like, yeah, I play soccer. I'm like, bring shoes, we play soccer 3 days a week. Now I have is like soccer all the time. But anyways, Um, that, that experience of getting him on and then he just had this potential. I could just see it, like, I could see he had this ability to be very creative. I don't know if you guys know or not, and probably a lot of people don't, but Peter has around 100 patents. Let that sink in a little bit. 100 patents. Not a lot of people that have that. And sorry. We talk every day, 3-4 times a day. But he was so creative. I could give Pete a problem and I could give him an objective. And I didn't worry about it. There's other people I had to worry about. I didn't work with Pete. In fact, he probably had, when he left this last job, he had 11 things going at one time. 11 projects. And I'm like, I can't replace that. Not from the work standpoint. I mean, yeah, I can't replace them. It's impossible. But think about that. That's so prolific. And not only just the projects, but the creativity that he was able to continually come up with ideas all the time. Super creative ideas, solving problems on the spot. It was fun to watch. Be in meetings and I'm so lucky to see this in action, right? There would be a problem that would be going on with whether it was a mechanical thing or some experience thing we were trying to solve, and on the spot he would come up with like 5 really super creative ideas, and I think a lot of times people were almost afraid of it. You know, but it was cool to watch, and I wish you could have seen that side of Pete. I saw it every day, and I saw the potential early on that he had, and that potential just blossomed and continued to go. And he's a world-class designer. He's a world-class industrial designer. He's won awards that are literally international award level for the world. And that's one thing that I'm super proud is I was able to kind of mentor him in the beginning, and then after that it was just him and I as a team. They call us Pete and repeat. It's all kinds of things they call us. He would say, dude, did you just read your email that you sent? And I'd be like, yeah, what's wrong with it? And he goes, he'd start laughing. It's like, you read it again. And I still would catch it sometimes and he'd show me it. But anyways, it's just things that were so cool. And the thing that was really good is that Pete and I, we worked really hard, but man, we played hard too. When we were on trips together, I just remember so many times like, hey, let's go to find a soccer game. We wander off and hang out with a bunch of drunk German guys or something, and have a soccer game, just crazy stuff. But it's Pete's a brother to me, and I don't want to take that away from his brothers, but I feel kind of like his older brother. He was uncle to my kids. I mean, all my kids. I'm hung out with him. Sometimes he was a dad to him to help him out. Maybe when I was too stubborn or trying to be too tough on him or whatever, that Pete was always there to help out. And man, there's no way to replace that. And it's been mentioned a number of times that Pete had the 6th sense. And he'd call me up and he'd go, hey, you all right, man? So you always say, you all right? I'm like, and sometimes I'd lie to him. And I just, yeah, I'm fine. No, because really, are you all right? And then, eventually I'd tell him something that was just bugging me or whatever. That was the crazy thing. And not only with me, there's people that he worked with and he didn't really know that. There's a girl that I talked to this last week, and she said, I never met Peter in person, but somehow he found out my dad had a stroke, and he called me up and said, how's your dad doing? That's what he was. Never met this girl before. And calls her up. How's your dad doing? I can't do that. I don't have that ability. Peter had that ability. And that's amazing. So I'm gonna miss him dearly, as all of you will. 3, 4 times a day. Oh man, what is he talking, what is he yelling me about? What is he gonna push me about now? And Peter pushed people in a good way. He had no patience for mediocrity, no patience for people that are being lazy. And I let him, he'd come back from meetings and people go, they'd call me, Pete was really up, and I'd go, well, okay, is he talking to me? Oh, he asked us to do this, this, and this. And I go, well, is that work? And they'd be like, no, well, it's pretty hard. I'm like, okay, that's what they call it work, right? You know, I come here and work all day and it's hard stuff. And he knew that I would back him up because I knew that if I put Pete on a project, I didn't have to work. His integrity was there, and I knew that he'd work hard as it was in front. And I could go on about climbing trips and surf trips and all this other stuff, but I wanted you guys to understand what a creative individual he was and what a world-class industrial environment he was. There's not a lot of us around. There's about 30,000 of us in the United States. Not a lot of industrial designers. And Pete was one of the best. One of the best. And I miss my brother.
Apologies in advance. I'm gonna read this. It's gonna help me keep my composure. Been an emotional week. I'm sure it has been for many of you. I met Pete about 12 years ago, shortly after I moved to Huntington Beach around 2012. We instantly connected over our mutual love for outdoor adventures. We started rock climbing, canyoneering, skiing, snowboarding. We even worked weekends part-time at REI together for a month just so we could get those project discounts. Some of you benefit from that also. On the way back from every trip, Pete would already be talking about the next canyon he wanted to explore, the next climb he wanted to conquer. Next weekend, the weekend after, he'd ask. And I'd be thinking, bro, I'm still trying to process like this amazing trip. Talk about this trip, but that was Pete. Like he lived for these experiences and he loved sharing them with everyone around him. But Pete didn't just live for the thrill of the outdoors. He lived for his family, his friendships, and his connections he made with others. I was talking to a friend of mine this past week. He'd only met Pete a couple times, a long time ago, but he told me the first time they spoke, he said he was kind of confused. He's like, why is this guy so generally nice and interested in me? He said, I've never met someone like that before. I just told him that's Pete, like he actually cares. Last year I was in the hospital in Iowa for 2 weeks sitting with my mom before she passed away. He reached out to me more than anyone else, checking in at least daily to see how my mom was doing, see how I was doing, even though he'd never even met her. He wanted to know how I was holding up and even offered to drive out to Iowa to keep me company. And that's just who he was, a friend in every sense of the word. This past week, as I've talked to many of you and seen all the posts people have shared about Pete, I've been even more amazed by him. I thought, did Pete unlock some secret dimension of the universe to find more time and hours in every day than any of us? It's like, how can he be this special person to so many people? Certainly there were more than 24 hours in Pete's days. As we go through life, it's easy to get caught up in work, family, and the general maintenance of life. Sometimes our friendships and relationships can fade a bit, but if there's one thing I'm taking away from knowing Pete, it's the importance of appreciating every person and every relationship we have. I want to do my best to reach out, keep in touch, and cherish some people in my life, just like Pete did. Thank you, Pete, for all the adventures, the laughter, and the love you'll always be with us.
Bear with me here. So whenever we go on climbs, we would, at the end of a climb, no matter how short or long, or it was a couple of days, there'd be we pick up things from different climbing partners and we would do something called Rosebud Thorn. You guys saw that. The invite, and Rose was, what was amazing about the trip, and Thorn is, something that was kind of difficult or hard. But it was what we were looking forward to on the next trip. One of the things that he would bring up almost every time was being with the group, how happy he was and excited he was to be with the people that he was with. It doesn't surprise me that all these people are here for him, because he was always there for us. So, in keeping with that, I have a few things that I want to bring up. Rosebuds and thorns with Pete. I don't think that anyone will appreciate my gear closet as much as Pete did. Ever. I don't think we designed our garage with drawers of carabiners and organized it. It was all designed for our gear, but really it was Pete's gear in the garage. Every day in the rope that shows up all the time. Finally, I just started opening them up to see what was like gifts for me. It was like Christmas every day. So I don't think I can find anybody in the world that would appreciate our gear like him. Pete would always send me links. He would see something like the Chiapas or something like this new canyon, and he'd send me links. Basically, got to do this now. And then he knew that I would dig into it and like read about it, and then so he followed me. Hey, check that out. You think we can do it? Look at that. What ropes do we need? I'm gonna miss that. You're gonna miss him in his search for just new adventures and new things. And the last bug here, or last thorn here is and I think it's a theme for the people that are talking is, Pete. He wasn't just, he was a guardian to everyone, but to me, he was the ultimate guardian. When I had difficult weeks at work, he would text. I'd be so stressed out I wouldn't respond. Another day went by, he would text again, "Hey, you okay?" And he would plan things and say, "We're doing this," to just get me out of the hole, to get me thinking about something other than work, to get outside. And I can't tell you how many times he's done that for me. And I think I'll miss that. I'll miss the guardian that was there to pull me out of my spreadsheets or pull me out of whatever I was doing that I thought was more important than going outside. So, roses. Uncle Pete. Uncle Pete is legendary. He will go down as the best uncle ever, and he is. I know with my nephews, they were so excited to see him and surf with them. And I remember over Christmas break, he went to Tabarua and surfed with my nephews. And anytime that any kid on that island would ask to surf, he'd be there. He surfed more than anybody, but he was there for the kids. He had fun with them. And he was the best uncle. And I think seeing that makes me want to be a better uncle, makes me want to just be not even close, but just be better at being uncle. So he's legendary as an uncle. I mean, he even an uncle, my dog, but every time he would every time he would, his truck would not even arrive at my driveway yet. My dog would freak out, and just run around and bark because he knew Pete was coming. And he knew he was coming because Pete gave him like a bag of beef jerky every time. And then he would leave and the dog would, throw up sometimes. But the dog was just so excited to see him, to see, his uncle every time. And so, which brings me to the last one, Buds. What I look forward to. So two things. So I think, so surfing, I'll tell a quick story about surfing here with Pete. So I'm not a surfer, I'm not a water person, but we were in California. In his local surf place, Blacks, which is an amazing place. And at the time I didn't know it, but it was like flaring like 4 to 6 there, like big waves, and I had no idea what I was getting into. And he took me surfing there, and I got destroyed. Like I couldn't even get out, and I was just getting rolled back to the beach the whole time. So that certainly knocked me down a peg trying to go out there. And ever since I was like, dude, I'm not surfing with you. I'm not like, he's like, hey, just want to surf. Nope, not gonna do it. Like I haven't been surfing since. So just recently he bought a foil, and I told him I'd learn how to foil with him. And so what I look forward to on repeat is just, I'm gonna cave and I'll learn how to surf and I'll learn how to foil. And so hopefully he'll be there to help me, and I'll learn how to do it. But I look forward to that because I'm sure that, being in the water, so I may go closer, Ken, and may come and visit and tell me how bad I'm doing. And the last thing is, we started a climbing tradition where, there's this big metal goat that we have, and and the strongest climber, or the climber that's just is like sending it, like they get to go. And so I gave it to one of our climbing partners, Curtis, and he had it for a while, and the thing went down to California. And it was down there, and then he gave it to me because I was still climbing in the Pacific Northwest. And then it ended up in our backyard right now. And so I don't know if anyone's been there, they've seen it. There's like a random goat on top of a wall that's bolted in our backyard. And then there's a little place where you can chip, right? So every time Pete came over, we'd hammer balls at that goat, like try to hit it. And so the goat is going to nobody else but Pete. I think he's going to end up with the goat forever now. And the reason I say that is because should have brought the goat. He was the greatest. He was the greatest climbing partner. So I should say he is the greatest climbing partner. He's the greatest friend. He's the greatest at texting and driving. And watching videos at the same time.
And eating.
He's the greatest brother. He's the greatest uncle. And we're so lucky to have him as part of our lives, and to continue to have him as part of our lives. So I look forward to seeing him in the canyons, in the water after I learn how to surf, and the smells, the sounds, and the butterflies, because he'll be there for you stuff. And I know that he'll be there for me as well. And we're lucky for that.
Cindy made me start crying before it's even my turn. I think of the speakers today, I had the least amount of history with them. I met Pete at Tony's house on 4th of July, 2016, and Pete quickly brought me into his friend circle and shared his friends with me. Even though it's only been 8 years, we packed a lot into 8 years, and he was like a brother to me. Going along with Rosebud Thorn, Pete introduced me to canyoneering years ago. And first trip, he said, I want to take you down to Escalante, to Neon. Now, my father grew up in Escalante. I grew up in Michigan. My father always hated Escalante. He said, what are you going to do in Escalante? That sucks. And I went down there and I had the best time. And at the end of the day, Mike said, Mike and Melissa, they shared their family with us. They shared their family with me. And they said, we're going to play this game, Rose, but don't. And that's where I was introduced to the game. And that's where I was introduced to canyoneering life. And I think Pete took me into my first 50+ canyons, and I've spent a lot of time with people in the canyon. And I've spent a lot of time on the phone with Pete. We never had a friendship where guys don't, and maybe I'm wrong, but guys typically don't call each other all the time to talk. But Pete is the one friend I've had in my life that we would regularly call each other and talk for 30, 45 minutes, an hour at a time. And it wasn't just once in a while. It was sometimes it was weekly, but it was always at least once a month, if not multiple times a month. Sometimes it was multiple times a week. And yes, he responded to text faster than anyone I'd ever seen. And sometimes he'd call, I'd be busy, and he'd leave me a voicemail, and then he'd text me and say, I called you. Like a clingy girlfriend, right? But he was not a clingy girlfriend. But I'll tell you what, Rose, Bud, and Thorn, Pete knew how to take care of his people. May of 2021, I had a big mountain biking accident where I mostly tore my right knee off of my leg and spent the day in the ER. The first couple of days, my ex-girlfriend showed up at the ER, spent the next couple of days taking care of me, and then she left. Nice ex-girlfriend, right? So she was gone. But I talked to Pete. He calls that night, told him I got to an accident. He was in San Diego. The next afternoon around lunch, Pete walks in the front door. So what are you doing in town? And he said, I'm here to take care of you. I had been thinking about how I was going to change all these bandages all over my body, places that I couldn't reach. Pete walks in the front door and he said, let's lay you down and let's get those bandages changed. I'm going to stay here. I'll take care of you. I had a cancer scare a couple of years ago, and once again, a few hours, well, in the evening before Pete was in San Diego, the next day he walks into the home. I made him a key to my house, which I will now wear around my neck, but it was a key so he could always come and go. So we'd have a home in Salt Lake anytime he needed. I wanted my home to be his home. My neighbors got used to seeing Pete's van parked in my driveway, and they would say, "Oh, Pete's in town. What's his next adventure?" I've been getting flowers at home this week because they're all going to miss seeing Pete. They didn't know where to send the flowers. They didn't know him personally, but they loved seeing Pete, and their kids would get excited about knowing a real life van lifer, not just an Instagram. Thorn. Well, because Pete had a key to my house, he sometimes would cramp my style dating. He would show up sometimes at inopportune moments. He had a standing room in my home, and I loved whenever he walked in the door. I mean, sometimes he'd stay for a day or 2 days. Sometimes he'd stay for weeks at a time. When I had the cancer scare, once again, he stayed patiently for, it was almost 2 weeks, and he didn't smother me. He gave me space, but he was always caring. And he took me to the hospital. He was listed as my brother, and so he got the results before I got the results. And he was there when I woke up from anesthesia, and Pete's been there for me continuously as a friend. And I have to mention, sometimes I would cramp Pete's dating style when I come home to our home. But yesterday I ran Dothraki Canyon for Pete. And that's the canyon that Pete hated the approach more than any other. Because it's far, it's long and it's ridiculous. But it was I told my group that I would be yelling Pete's name on every rappel. And not to worry, I was yelling Pete, not help. And so we got to the first rappel, and as I descended the rope, I yelled Pete's name as loud as I could, hoping maybe he would hear, and maybe it was a way to summon him, his spirit. And a yellow, beautiful monarch butterfly showed up. And that yellow, beautiful monarch butterfly showed up repeatedly after multiple rappels following us through the canyon. And each time the group would say, hey, look, it's Pete. And then we got to the exit. And as we started to walk through, as we started to exit the canyon, the monarch butterfly showed up one more time. And one last time we recognized the butterfly. And then it fluttered off. I look forward to Pete showing up as a presence and a guardian angel in canyons and in my life. And I hope he also continues to show up as a presence and a guardian angel in your lives, because whether it's in person or in spirit, Pete knows how to care for his people. In the famous words of Point Break, yo, Pete, I'll see you in the next life.
All right. Yeah, I'm Ken. I live in Huntington Beach. Chances are, I talked to Pete and he was in Huntington Beach. He was in my driveway in his van, swinging in a hammock with his phone on speakerphone. So I heard everything any of you said. Always, Glenn, I've never met you in person, but I've heard your voice a lot. I want to start with, I guess, the thorns and the themes. I have a couple funny ones. There's a donut shop right by my house, and we've been trying to lose weight. And no matter how many times I told Pete, like, hey, when you come, like, don't bring donuts. Bring something healthy, like something. It doesn't matter how many times I say it. Like, I wake up, there's donuts on my desk. I'm sitting there working in a Zoom call, and he like slides it over to me. It's just constantly. He loves just taking care of people. Anybody who knows Pete knows that. Like that's where he gets his joy. That's his special gift. He's also I guess another thorn is he was kind of like a third kid. I had twins. He's a little messy. So I think like 3 weeks ago he was at my house, and I'm looking in the kitchen. I'm like, okay, like there's jelly all over the floor. Like Zach and Blake, like, who did it? And of course their 12-year-olds are like, not it. And I'm like, come on, like it wasn't me, it wasn't Amber. And then Pete's sitting there and he like slowly looks over and he's like, yeah, that might have been me. So those are the thorns, and if that's worse than God, I mean, that tells you how good of a guy he was. So I'm gonna move on to roses. One of the things I loved about Pete is he was just open to doing anything. So like I would call him like, hey, there's a new dumpling place, there's a new taco place, there's a new Thai place, and he was like, dude, I'm coming in town right now. Let's try it. Let's go. Let's invite everybody. We got into thrift store shopping recently, and just we're buying junk, and I actually have some stuff on my counter that he redid.
But he took 2 trips to the dump with me, and all these are like in the last 2 months. I recently moved, and he's the only one who would be like, "Yeah, dump, let's go." And we did 1 trip. And I'm like, "Look, I'm so sorry, but like, I don't. There's too much trash. We got to move it out." And then he's like, "Okay, next load." And he was the first guy to. He came home. I think I was packing for 2 weeks, and he was there the whole time, making sure I was taken care of, following up with me. The other thing we got really into, I don't know if anyone heard last year when we went to Teacups, the reason we were so excited this year is because we found a little bit of gold. And so we were like insane about it. But we found a little bit of gold, and like I think Amber has some videos of us like painting for like we grabbed a bunch of some water bottles, and then like we're at my kitchen sink and we're like sifting it and like watching YouTube videos on how to like separate the pyrite from like the real gold. And like so we had like this little vial that we ended up getting. We got way into like whitewater gold mining. I don't remember. It was there's like 7 seasons. We watched all of them. It's terrible. They never strike gold. But like we were just like researching, like writing, oh, we should try this. So we had all this stuff ready to go. And unfortunately, I want to get back somewhere and doing that because I spent a lot of time working on this project. I think so. He's open to doing everything. He was such a friend and family-based person, more than anybody I've ever met in my life. To my kids, we joked that he was like the Uncle Jesse from like Full House. Because he was like kind of a big kid. He was always there to support him. In fact, Zach, I introduced Zach to a couple people here, and I introduced I said, oh yeah, they called him Uncle Pete, and Zach's like, actually, he was more like a father than like an uncle. I see this guy way more than I've seen any of my uncles because he was always around. So, I mean, I hope we can take that on, in the future. The other thing I really admired is he thought differently than anybody else I know. And I was talking to one of our friends, Jeff, about this, how like normally, you get married, you have a job, like you have a kid or 2, you have like a gym membership, and you're in a house. He wasn't wired that way. And like, I think at the time we didn't appreciate it as much. I mean, we loved him, but like, I think as we kind of like just talked it out, it's like, he lived in a van so that he could go see his friends and family wherever. So he would spend time with me. He would cruise over to St. Meats. He would go, he'd go see his family in St. George, and he would, at the drop of the hat, he was there to be with people. And it's so impressive. I mean, the other way he thought differently, we always laugh about this, is like a few months ago, we got like way into Wordle. You guys ever played Wordle? And so like, I'm like really anal, and I'm like 2 guesses left. And I'm like, okay, I know this letter's here and here. And he's like, what are you playing? I'm like, oh, I'm playing Wordle. He's like, I like Wordle. And so he like sits on the couch, and I've been playing it for like probably 7 hours because I'm kind of a perfectionist. And like, kind of all off and on, I'll turn it on. And I'm sitting there, and it's like 5 or 6 o'clock at night. He hops on the couch and he's like, got it. I was so pissed, but like he just thinks differently. Like he's like, yeah, I'm dyslexic. So like, I just start punching in letters, and like then it just works every time. Anyway, whoever's monitoring his like Wordle chain, we're still sending him our Wordle of the day because we just haven't been able to give it out. So I apologize. And then lastly for my bud, Zach asked me a couple days ago, we were obviously really broken up this week, like, will we ever find another Pete? And, the answer is obviously no. Like, there will never be another guy who's anything close to Pete with all of his talents, who he was, showing up in the middle of the night, to go surfing the next day in a van. But, we can take, and as I told Zach, like, just take all those lessons you learned, write them down, and try to live those for, for people around you. That's how you create another Pete. So, he wrote a couple of things down that Pete had taught him. One was knife use, because I think he was cutting towards himself, and he properly showed him how to like peel a potato or something. So that was his first thing. Being a good friend. He also just wanted me to tell him just a minute. Say also that being supportive of anything your friends do. He was like your biggest cheerleader, no matter how silly. If you're into gold mining, like he's still going to really support you. He was playful throughout, his whole life, and I think we can all take that, and at least I'm going to take that for the rest of my life, and I'll forget it. Thanks.
I know what some of you are thinking. That guy didn't canyoneer with Pete. Um, yeah, Pete is here, you know, he's wearing flip flops and the most comfortable Prana pants. Um, but my mom would say, show some respect. And Pete deserved this. I met Sherm in the dorms at BYU. Q-Law. And I first saw Pete, my bromance was in the singles ward. And what guys do, if you're not familiar with LDS singles ward, is we vet the competition. So I saw this slob, perfect hair. I don't know what it was. I just thought it was like cool, but he was doodling, right? That's what Pete does. And the common theme was that he always had the best around him, always on campus. That's because he's one of them. It's been a pleasure to continue that friendship with him for about 25 years, and I use that word a pleasure. He was a creative, as mentioned, he was the industrial designer, and I graduated in advertising. So we continued that relationship as creatives for about 2 decades. Prior to van life, we lived in my basement for 2 years, so I know a lot of dirt. A lot of- I remember the story when he was like, Ash, design me like some no name security sticker so I can put on my van. Cause he was just gonna hide out. He would just like creep in neighborhoods in his van and then surf. Surf on the weekends. But again, it was a pleasure to have him with me. Most recently, Pete and I were working on a business idea. I didn't know that Yay was one of them, but yes, we were working on a business concept. And if you, I guess the best way to describe it is if you look at these walls, we had a manufacturer in Tecate, Mexico, and Pete was product designer and I was over brand. And so we were partners in launching what would be a series of concrete tiles. And the concrete tiles would form these intertwine and form these like large shapes, right? And so Pete spent a lot of time working on these designs, and at some point it was his job to present the concept to these board of individuals. Pete's grand idea was that in both Morse code and in Braille, these tiles would form the word love. It was Pete's strongest desire in this case, in this regard, to spread love. It wasn't until last week that I understood because he was love. It was unconditional love. I've used this phrase to be consistently Pete. That was, we all have a phrase, but that was the thing that kind of a week ago, that's where the pain came for me, was that he was consistently Pete. Pete was a collector of people, not things. Even in this business, you know, we would have these like check-in meetings, and you know, we would have a meeting on one day, and then a week would go by, and Pete was in Hawaii. He was driving to Oregon. He was visiting Bruce's. He was working out with Bruce's son here in St. George. He had done like He'd done 3 or 5 things. But he wasn't interested deeply. He wasn't interested in collecting things. He was a collector of people. In a world of collecting ads or likes, it was probably number one, as evidenced by this group that he was a collector of people. He wants gold for a vast amount of influence and shared experiences with people literally all around the world. To be consistent, Pete is also to be non-judgmental. It was an honor to be his friend, and I never felt judgment, as many of you have probably never felt from him. Lastly, to be consistently Pete is to be heroic. After speaking to people who were there with him last week, they were convinced that he was going to give up his life to go into the depths of darkness to save someone. I guess I was most affected when I heard the news because my mind started to recall his life as consistent and these powerful experiences that I had with him, and how far I was from being the man he lived. Maybe that's the beauty of this earthly experience, is to have souls such as his influence ours as reminders of what life's really about. And if, whatever we believe in terms of, spiritual, that Jesus or heavenly parents were on this earth, I certainly imagine them as someone like Pete. Understanding of unconditional love, never in judgment, always checking in, and willing to dive into the depths of darkness to free us all. Thank you.
Some years ago, I was at Bruce and Noel's wedding, and I broke an etiquette at that wedding, and I just did it again. Sorry, crazy white guy, breaking things up. I'm sorry. Pete and I met right after our missions about 28 years ago, and I still remember the mutual friend that introduced us. We were at some event, and that friend was off to the side, and Peter and I spent the next 48 hours together. We ended up in Wendover, everywhere. And that was the beginning of the most beautiful friendship I have ever had. As they asked for carabiners, I went through some of my old gear and found carabiner that were with my old ice axes that were the carabiners we used as an anchor in a place called the Dirtsicle, which was the very first time Peter ever went ice climbing. And he had never been. I took him, but he didn't want me to go first. We set up the anchors and he's like, okay, I'm ready. And he was the first one up. I will tell you, it's probably the only thing I ever did that was a little bit better than him with that. But his zest for being first, for that adventure, for that thirst, was just an inspiring aspect of his life. I have another carabiner that I brought with me. That was one of two that got us out of a very big jam. We were just experiencing canyoneering at that time, and we were in Zion on Behunin, and it was the very first time either of us had done it. And we knew some of the lengths were a little bit longer. We just threw that darn rope and we went over. I was the first on that particular one, and my rope wasn't long enough. And I remember using one of those carabiners and pulling it out and getting a little prusik and trying to get off the tension of the rope. But the only thing that saved me was Pete at the anchor. And we weren't extremely experienced,
but he was such a loyal person that I knew that that was going to be secure as I kind of finagle things in order to make it down all the way. When my wife and I started dating, we always had this rule. We called it Pete privileges. Peter could be in the same room, in the same bed, in the same whatever with my wife. And I remember somebody else asking me, how do I get Pete privileges? And I said, if you have to ask, you'll never have Pete privileges. Peter is the most loyal and loving person that I've had in my life. And one thing that I just haven't heard, and I need to say to you all, you were his anchor. You were the ones that gave him that foundation to inspire everybody here. I remember being part of your family and hearing about your own trials and the honesty in which you approached everything was inspiring to me. Learning that life is hard and still facing it with that integrity are those things that Pete brought to everybody else. And I will tell you that my life is different because of that. And I'm thankful for you. And I'm thankful for Pete, even though I'm still very angry that I can't text him and that he can't call me as easily. But I know that he will never be out of my mind and he will never be out of my soul. And his influence and all of your comments have inspired me to be more like Pete and to live like him. And I know that as we do that, we will carry his virtue everywhere. And we will make our worlds and everybody else's worlds better. And I'm thankful for his vision and his inspiration in that. Thank you.
You guys need to stand up and stretch in 3. We are gonna shift to the family. Josh, Peter's son, brother-in-law, and his sister are gonna talk to us a little bit about something that they've done, and then Phil and Pam, Pete's mom and dad, will talk to us, and then we actually have a special musical by Casey and then my wife Noel. There's so many of you that we would love to hear from, to be honest, quite frankly, all of you. We're trying to get all of these stories and piece together, QR code in the back. If you need it, it's a link to it. Please share the message and the stories. It's actually kind of quite easy for us to hear all that. A lot of these adventures, someone in the family might not have been part of it, so we'd love to hear all that. It was mentioned about the carry meters back in that table. If you did bring one, you want to sign your name, leave a message, whatever it is. Leave it over there. There's some loops over there. You can put carry meter on. We're going to save all those and more likely the problem with Phil Beats van. You'll continue to see the vans. Don't be surprised to see it around town. Don't be scared. It's not Pete. But if you ever need a van, hit us up. It'll be available as Pete's van. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Josh, guys.
So I had the privilege to marry into the On family in 2001. In 2001, I married into the On family. I first met Connie, Pete's one and only sister, in 2000. It's difficult to explain what it's like being a part of this family because I myself have 7 brothers and sisters. I'm the second, the youngest, but there's a closeness that exists in the On family that is unique. And so it seems like I'm always trying to provide context for when I talk about spending time with them, spending time with Pete. And when I think about the impact that he had in my life, largely, it really draws my thoughts to my children, to my nephews and nieces. And you have to bear with me to kind of hear just how my brain connects things. But in 1880, the world's population was 1.1 billion people. Now, to put that in context, scientists, and they believe that modern man has been around for somewhere between 150,000 to 300,000 years. And if you can imagine the timeline of existence, that in 150,000 years that all of the world managed to amass only 1.1 billion people, it's unique. And then in 140 years, from 1880 until 2024, the world went from 1.1 billion people to 8 billion people. And what happened in that is that so many people lost their way because life became something in some ways less precious. Suddenly, people began to live longer because before that, for 150,000 years, humanity struggled just to live. And so oftentimes, the people who lived in those 150,000 years had to live for something. And you read these stories of the heroes of the past, and oftentimes they're giving their life for something greater than themselves, so that the legacy of those that come after them, it lives on. When I think about my memories of Pete, I remember that he had this uncanny ability to always know where he was going. Didn't matter if you'd been there
Hold on, everybody, I gotta switch you out. Hold on, the phone died.
because in the end, to say
Can you
it
hear me?
that way, especially when you know
Can you guys hear me?
the word just fits.
Okay.
Of course, he died in the most peak way possible. He lived in the most peak way possible. It is really hard sometimes to know what a good friend is until you actually have that good friend. Think about, there are many people who put their lives on the line as a part of the job. There are many people who are paid to do dangerous things. And that there are so few people in this civil society that we live in who are afforded an opportunity to risk their life for someone else, and they choose to do so. And so I've been tremendously grateful for that particular example, that legacy that Pete would leave to my children. Because it's strange to think that I know someone that when confronted with that opportunity to give your life for someone else, especially someone else you don't know, that they take it, not once, but twice. When the news arrived, 1 a.m, we were woken up by our son. He came knocking on the door, and the weight of the news was unbearable. And as people reached out to me, reached out to my wife, they asked, "How are you doing?" And we told them that it's heavy. It's so heavy. And I have found myself, look, I'm an attorney by practice. I do litigation. I stand in front of people quite often, talk. And for the first time in almost 18 years of practice, I find myself doing what's called a physiological sigh, where you take a breath just to feel like you have air in your lungs, because otherwise it's just unbearable. And I found myself trying to exercise after getting this news, and I just couldn't breathe. And a close friend of ours reached out to my wife and shared with her something. She said, who had just recently lost her father, that initially, when the news of someone's death, such as Pete, who's so close to you, when it hits you, it is like this giant mountain of a weight, and it just presses down and it makes it difficult to breathe. And that the goal is that as time passes, that erodes the rock until eventually you're left with a pebble. And the idea is that the pebble is something you can carry with you for the rest of your life, to always remember. I'm waiting for that moment when the rock will erode enough that I can breathe again, such that I can have the pebble to carry with me. And there is something unique about the family that I married into. And their last name is On. And you think about Pete On, and I've never known someone in my life who has been so present, who has truly been such a loyal friend, and so deserving to be verbed. Because the idea and the convenience of having a last name of On is that you can tell someone to Pete On. And so then you have to decide, this part I would give to Connie to read if she were so inclined. Okay, because she's the one that came up with the definition of the verb to Pete.
Well, I want to say that we've had a lot of, obviously a lot of family conversation this week, and I'm a little short here. The idea came to me just as we were talking about Pete, and that his name was synonymous as a verb, as an action. And the idea came to me with the phrase, keep calm, carry on, but as a play on words, keep calm, Pete On. And I just had the idea that we wanted to hand out stickers today to just commemorate that phrase, and will be a phrase that we for sure will use with our kids, and just as a motivation to remember their Uncle Pete. And as you learned today, Pete is the artistic one in the family. Unfortunately, the rest of us don't have that gift, and I'm not one that can originate art or conceptualize something, but with this sticker, the sticker came to my mind, and I know it was Pete. Just the way it was supposed to look, it just like, it's never happened to me. It was pretty trippy, but I saw it and I created it, and I know that was all Pete, so I have to give him credit. But I'm gonna read the verb that we created. So Pete, verb used without object. 1, to live an adventure, to seek out and embrace new experiences, exploring the unknown with courage and curiosity. 2, to love and prioritize family and friends, to cherish relationships, always putting the well-being and happiness of loved ones first. 3, to live fearlessly, take action, to face challenges head on, making bold decisions without hesitation. 4, to embody carpe diem, to seize the day, living fully in the present moment, appreciating every opportunity. 5, to act with selflessness, to put others before oneself, even in the face of danger, demonstrating true bravery and compassion. These are all, I think, at the door if you want to take one. And I know with our kids, we're gonna, when we drop them off at school, it'll be love you, Pete On.
I've written down the notes just to ensure that I stay on topic. Thank you for coming together, we Pete. My grandfather came from China to the United States and settled in a little mining town called Wairika, California. He worked as a cook on a ranch. Later, he opened up a small restaurant that my dad took over after World War II. My dad developed a barbecue sauce. It's a finishing sauce at his restaurant that I especially enjoy. Over the years, I've tweaked the recipe, and when the kids asked if they could have the recipe, I told them, no, one day I'm going to bottle the sauce. Fast forward a couple of years ago, when I was having health issues, to the point that I went to the heart failure clinic and my cancer came back. Peter was really concerned that I may die and wanted me to fulfill my dream of bottling my sauce, which would be my legacy. When I started to get my health back, Peter started to push the family plus Brad, who technically could be considered family, to bottle my barbecue sauce. And Yaya LLC was created, which means grandfather in Chinese. Over the past few months, we have tested and sent out sauce samples, got the company organized, and created a website. Peter designed the Yaya logo, and Pete designed the pouches for the sauce. He ordered 25,000 pouches. So we could get them at the best price. Oh, Pete. We were scheduled to start our cottage production on the small batch this Saturday. The logo Pete created is epic. It is distinctively Pete style design. We love it. No words can describe how I feel of the thoughtfulness Pete took to create a legacy for me. That's the kind of son Pete was. But now, who knew the legacy of Yaya is not mine, but Pete's? Maybe that's apropos, as Pete loves the Yaya song.
Really appreciate it. We were hoping that when we gathered everybody together, that everybody could feel everybody's spirit of unity and of love, and that will be helping in the healing process. And so we appreciate it. I appreciate, I need to say thank you to all these friends that helped put this together, and my family. I mean, I have incredible children. I was honored to be a mother to these kids. It's an honor to be a mother to Peter. Anyway, so you know, it was funny when I would talk to Peter on the phone. This is what our conversations sounded like. Hi, Mom. Blah 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 blah. Oh, I gotta go. Damn, calling. Complex because he never really wanted a full conversation with me. He just wanted to kind of say my mom, and then you know, and then someone was always calling him. So I knew I was in trouble when Pete was little. He was 2, and we did student housing, so it was going to grad school. And we lived in an apartment on the 2nd floor. There was a balcony, so Pete could ride his tricycle around. And one day he decided to ride his tricycle off the balcony and down the stairs. And he kind of fell, and I was like, oh my gosh, halfway, that it's Pete. So he just got up and walked down the stairs and started playing. Didn't face him at all. You know, so occasionally, Pete would say to me, I don't know what to do with my life, Mom. And I would reply, why don't you do service, Peter? And he would reply, I do a lot of service. And I would be like, well, I don't know, you never have the Habitat for Humanity or, you know, one of these other organizations. And he's a really good carpenter. So it's like, well, you could do that, you know, but as all of you have mentioned, Pete did do service. He was in the service of our cause, and he had a really heavy gift with his feet here. He really did. He could tell when people were having a hard time. He could tell when people are happy. And I think that the service that I speak of also is that he was present for his friend. He didn't like, if he knew someone was having a hard time, he immediately acted. He didn't wait. And when Joe was going through his, trials with his health, he would call almost daily and be like, Dad, okay? And then you have, are you okay, Mom? And they go, really, are you okay? And, it was really heartwarming. So, in Matthew 25:40, it says, inasmuch as you have done it unto the least of my brethren, you have done it unto me. And I think that just listening to all of your comments and everybody that, you know, made these beautiful memories, about Peter, I'm like, I don't know if that's my kid, you know, it's kind of unreal. Anyway, but my relatives in Hawaii, they always send away something aloha of giving a small gift. So when you leave tonight, someone else is standing at the door, and we have a carabiner, and because it's here, but it's not one that you can actually use. You know, don't go out. And it says yay on it, and because this is kind of how we will really remember Peter, that you know he's such a couple. He loves canyoneering, and then. He started yay, so I'm like, now we're supposed to finish it. You know, it's now he's gone. Anyway, and then we'll also be having the Cotty and Dr. Berg keep on. And we want to give this to you because it's kind of, we hope it reminds you to find inspiration and be present for your family and your friends. You know, that legacy that we can leave behind, all of us can leave, is really for our family and for other people. Anyway, and then lastly, you know, you can feel free to message me on Facebook. So after Pete passed away, of course, I was really upset for like a couple days. And then that Pete, you know, just like Brad, just like, was it Brad? You know, he just like, he always says to me, stop, Mom. And then he'll say what? And I can hear him clearly saying to me, stop, Mom, I'm fine. We need to move on. There's other people hurting. And so feel free to like message me through Facebook anytime. So I bawled my eyes out for Peter for 3 days, and then I knew that he just needed to move forward, and so I am. Anyways, I feel like if we all come together, we can heal each other's hearts. We have the Spirit be with us always, and then we can all together repeat.
How many of you guys have seen that smile on Pete's face after you have waded through freezing cold water and somehow he has hiked around completely dry? I think he might be still smiling down.
Yeah. This song goes by the Creed by Decide the Bond. If you want to pull it up in your phone, feel free to sing along with us.
There's all always tomorrow. I miss your touch when I'm hollow. I know you crossed a bridge that I can't follow. Since the love that you left is all that I get, I want you to know that I can't be close to you. I'll settle for the ghost of you. I miss you more than life. If you can't be next to me, your memory is ecstasy. I swear more than life. Young blood thinks there's always tomorrow. I need more time, but time can't be borrowed. And I leave it all behind if I can follow. But the love that you left me is all that I get. So I want you to know that if I can't be close to you, I'll settle for the ghost of you. I miss you more than I. If you can't be next to me, your memory is ecstasy. I miss you more than I.
So surprisingly, he was only scared of two things. One was tight spaces, like the crack of that big rock. And you never get through. And then the other was the well. Sweet Noel. Noel and I have been married for quite some time. And a lot of our married life, our family life, always included Pete. So there's not a single family vacation or even anniversary getaways Pete was not invited to, and he always showed up. That's so like him to just show up. And we built our life around Pete. So Pete got a van, and he knew that I hated camping. Like I told him every day I worked way too hard at mine to go camp. But if you want to meet me at the Four Seasons, I'm happy to hang out with you. But he convinced us to get a van, and we absolutely loved it. And him and I would take road van trips. And I couldn't tell him all over work because I just followed Pete. And Starlink was the best thing that we ever got. so I could work on the road, he could work on the road. And then it wasn't enough, so we ended up buying a house in St. George. And the criteria for the house was, well, it has to have first a seat for Pete. So Pete has a place to hang his head. But listening to all of you, I could have saved a lot of money. Hey, unfortunately, we have all these young people in here that actually think that they can live in a van, come hang out at my house and that's free. But you know what, I realized, this week when I was thinking about it, and obviously you feel an ache in your heart that you know will never go away, is, in my mind, Noel and I, we always wanted to be there, because it made life more rich and more full. Every family vacation was better, 100% better, because Pete was there with our kids and us. But in my mind, I was always like, hey, we're doing this because Pete needs to know that we love him and want him there. But it was us doing for Pete, and I realized this week is that, no, it's the other way around. He was showing up for us. And it is uncanny, I've heard it over and over, and I'm sure you guys have experienced it, where you might not even know that why you're going through a hard time, you might not even know what you're going through, and he doesn't really care, unless you want to share it with him, but he'll be there for you. And when I went through one of those some years ago, he showed up, it was quite like an anniversary trip. He shows up and he loves tradition. So you know Pete, he loves tradition. And he was with us in Vail. This is pre-band days. So we were staying at some swanky hotel. And Pete just slept on the floor in our suite. And it didn't bring the mood, we sound fun. Well, so the tradition was born that we decided to go to Vail, and we're like, hey, you know what would be fun is we should get something, we should buy something together, all three of us. And of course, Pete finds, and I'm like, Pete, since you came all this way, I'll buy it for you. So of course, he picks out some like ridiculous looking goggles, sunglasses that are like more than my car. And I already said it, so all of a sudden we walk out of the store with ridiculous matching sunglasses. And a tradition was born. So every time Pete and I were together, we would go and buy something matching, which is why I'm dressed like Pete. It got so bad that we went to REI a couple of years ago and we spent an hour looking for something we didn't already own. We're like, dude, we got to get something. And we couldn't find anything in REI that we didn't already have. And I told Pete, I was like, hey, we're going to start buying work clothes. And he's like, what's that? Never mind. There's one thing about Pete that has been helping me and our family get through it. Many of you that know Pete well, know that he had a strong faith and belief in God and a loving Heavenly Father. And he believed in a Savior, Jesus Christ. And for many of you, you guys know that Pete was just strong, just courageous. But he struggled, and he had a lot of demons that he faced. Can you imagine a Pete that was in middle school, maybe high school, I thought, can you imagine that? He lived these lives where he understood the other side. So it let him live in a way that he treated us with this unconditional love. He believed in the Father. And I've been struggling, but I've been leaning into Pete's faith this week and leaning into his belief. Leaning into the belief and hope that he's in a better place and finally has peace that he's looking for. And I know he's praying that we can be that type of unconditional love in each other's lives that he showed us. In closing, I just want to share with you the last memory we had with Pete. We were doing a family vacation in Montana, and of course, Pete was there, right? This has been on the books for a long time. And Pete told us, hey, I'm going to be ready to go run a canyon. And, you know, we kind of teased him, said, you're going to be hanging out with us in Montana to go run a canyon you've done like 15 times. And he's like, yeah, I promise I might be there. And I knew in that moment, if I asked, but if I asked Noel to ask him, that he would stay.
because that's how loyal Pete was. But we also think that he told people he needed. And that's what Pete loved to do. He wanted to show up for his people. And so Pete also loves to squeeze in every last thing that he can do. So that morning, Pete's got to drive, I think, like 18 to 20 hours and go through. We're like, Pete, we should go grab a golf before you hit the road. And so Andy and I sneak in around the golf early with Pete. We tell him it's early, but you know how it works. Golf's a long game. And Pete loves to bet, so of course we lost the bets. We got to buy Andy food, but he's got to get on the road. And I go up to Pete though. We got back, and I was like, "Hey, there's a diner that's on the road." Pete knows I love breakfast diner. And this place has been there since like 60 years or something. And I was like, "Pete, we should hit this up on your way out." And I know he's got to get on the road. He looks at me and he sees how excited I am. He's like, "Let's do it." And so the last memory I have of Pete is we walk to this diner, totally full. One table left. We let the kids eat there. Him and I sit at the countertop of the bar section of this diner, side by side. And grab our meals. Of course, we're sharing like a side of bacon because our meals don't have enough bacon on it. And Pete and I are looking at Montana real estate. And we're planning our next adventure hub. We're like, we gotta get a place up here. And I opened Pete's phone this week, was able to log in, and I said, what do I find? I find pictures of all the real estate you're looking at. And one of them was $3.5 million. But I'll always remember that he's planning our next trip. He's planning, and that's what all this was, because we have a lot of plans. So, well, sometimes I want to shout at him. I miss him, and I know that he is in a peaceful place, and that I know that his demons have finally been quenched. And he loves you all, and we love you. You are now part of our family. There was the saying, like growing up, if you're also close in age as the brothers, it was like, if you're friends with one of us, it's like a package deal. You're just friends with all of us. And of course, Pete was the best one of all. And then we're like, if you get really lucky, you get upgraded, you get Cotty as well. But you guys were his people, and so that makes you our people. You'll always have a place in our heart. We love you so very much. If we miss you, save a place for us. Get her up there and find the next king. We love you. Thank you all for coming. We have Mel on that's going to give a closing prayer. Feel free to linger as long as you want, and we love you.
Thank you for me. And you may always remember others and new times for others. As we have a place today to see and for safety and knowing able to have safety.
Saying hi to the nieces and nephews. Yeah, can I hire you? Oh, yeah. You're close. That wasn't. No, it's not. So I didn't think that. Anyway. Maybe a new paper. Hard to read through tears.
You should have done that.
Okay. Go. You guys see us anywhere?
Back.
Ready? Hold it tight. All right, everybody, thanks for coming. We'll see ya.